Williams, the Supersports, the 600cc machines out on the track, having a look at the sighting lap. And they'll come down to form up on the grid. And the news we can tell you is that it's Craig Connell, a man on board the Ducati, who has taken pole position. And Craig Connell, Australian bike fans at least, are more accustomed to seeing him out there dueling amongst the superbike riders as far as the Australian Championship is concerned. And Craig Connell did in fact finish in 7th place in that particular championship. Well, he's come out on a 600 this weekend and taken pole position from the likes of Sean Giles, who was back on the second row of the grid. He won the Supersport Championship in the 6-round ARRC series this year. So Craig Connell on board that yellow Ducati there on the inside of the grid over near the pit lane wall. It's been an impressive start for him on board a 600 Supersport, Kevin McGee.
Yeah, he's jumped around all over the place, ridden a lot of different classes recently, and seems to be finding very good form. In fact, excellent form here in the 600 Supersport class.
And alongside him, an old stager, a man, in fact, who competed in the very first Australian Grand Prix in 1989 down here in the 500cc class. Mal, better known as Wally Campbell, he was second quickest, and he was the best part of half a second behind the time of Craig Connell. So as they line up here, getting ready for the warm-up lap at Phillip Island, getting the all clear as the grid clears. Connell from pole position, Campbell alongside him, then it's Josh McFarlane on board a Kawasaki third fastest, and Chris Synan on the Mick Hone motorcycle Suzuki GSXR 600. He will start from the outside of the front row. They take off on the warm-up lap, and everybody here warming up the tyres. The 600 Supersport bikes are pretty much production bikes. They can't change a lot of things. They can put a new exhaust system on the bike, Kevin, change a few things as far as suspension are concerned. They're pretty much, they're bikes you could buy out of a showroom somewhere and come with a few aftermarket products come racing.
Yeah, they're basically a 600cc street bike with a nice competitive set of tyres on it and a few other parts in a very basic set of rules.
Well, there is the front row of the grid. Connell, Campbell, McFarlane and Synan. Then it's Paul Free, Nigel Arnold, Sean Giles and Adam Ferguson. Giles, as I mentioned, the 97 ARRC champion. There is Greg Moss, who in 97 finished in third place in the 600 Supersport series here in Australia. Paul Young, a privateer rider in the 500cc class last year for Harris Yamaha in the Grand Prix scene. Chris Taylor and Michael McKenzie on the outside of the third row. Back on row 4, Brandon Oxford, John Wright, Darryl Gansby, a former Harley-Davidson twin sports rider, making his debut as far as 1997 is concerned. He's been riding all year in the Supersports and doing a pretty good job of it as well. Stephen Cutting on the outside of grid row number 4. Then it's Michael Thomas, Scott Campbell, the son of Mal Campbell, back in 18th position. Jason Love, who was Craig Connell's teammate in the Ducati dealer team in the Superbike series, riding a Honda this afternoon in the Supersports. And Sheldon Florence on the outside of the 5th row. Back on row 6, Molly Casata, Scott Church, Luke Hewitt and Brian Bazzina. I said Scott Honeychurch. Make a correction there. Tom McFadden, Michael Roothouse, Justin Betteridge and Roger Harrison. They are on the 7th row of the grid. Row 8, Rogers, Clark, Carroll and Roberts. They are the 32 qualifiers for this first race of the Australian Grand Prix weekend here at Phillip Island. We've seen 6 qualifying and practice sessions all up in the Grand Prix. We've seen 250 production bikes out there qualifying earlier. At long last, we've got a race, and this should be a beauty. The Supersport's a very competitive category. The champion Giles, starting from the 2nd row of the grid, 7th fastest in qualifying, as we look at the number 2 CBR Honda of Mal Campbell. But it's Craig Connell who was quickest on board that 748 SP Ducati. Waiting for the grid to form up. Red flag showing at the front of the grid, and there are the start lights in your top left-hand corner hanging from the bridge, which is just in front of the start-finish line here at Phillip Island. The last row moving into place, Everybody ready. Looking at the front of the Paul Free Suzuki. He is starting from the inside of the second row, trying to find a way through Connell and Campbell. The green light standing by. They go red. And green it is at Phillip Island. Connell got an absolutely terrible start, and it's Josh McFarlane on the Kawasaki who will get the whole shot down into turn one for the very first time. Connell was slow away, and he's well back. Coming up behind Josh McFarlane, it's Adam Ferguson, and then it's back further in the pack to Chris Synan. He is third. But at the moment, it's McFarlane out in front on board the Kawasaki. The Donut King bike, he leads them through Southern Loop for the very first time.
Josh going very well, got away so clean from the start, and he'll be trying to put a break on the pack here to get away from the rest of them. But that is going to be tough in this class because it's so hotly contested. But he's still got them covered down into Honda hairpin, still Adam Ferguson on his tail.
And it certainly is as they come up towards Siberia. A small gap there out in front, and will be interesting to see if Craig Connell, after a terrible start, can pick his way through the field. There he is, flashing by our curb cam on that number 7 yellow Ducati as they go up the back of the circuit here for the very first time. 8 laps is the race distance here. This is the first of 8. McFarlane leads Ferguson with Synan, who started from the outside of the front row, closely on Ferguson's tail. It's those 3 men across the top of Lukey Heights, down into turn 10, MG corner, the second hairpin on the circuit, and around the top they come now as we look out the front, the windscreen of Paul Free Suzuki after he started from 5th position on the inside there of the second row. McFarlane through turn 12. He'll come down and lead them across the line the very first time. Ferguson on his tail, and then it's back to Chris Synan. Mal Campbell in 4th position on that Honda CBR 600. Down the hill they come towards turn 1. McFarlane with Ferguson drafting, slipstreaming him, trying to find a way up the inside or around the outside as it is up towards Southern Loop now, and goes past him into the lead. A great move by Ferguson. Takes the lead from Josh McFarlane.
That's what you'll see here at Phillip Island so often. They can just pick up a little bit on the draft down the... Oh, and Ferguson winding it on, and Josh getting right out to the outside of the track. And it's Josh back up the inside, down into the flat-out kink. But we'll see if Adam Ferguson can go. Wow.
McFarlane got the knee on the ground then. I thought he was headed for the infield as they came through the kink down to Honda corner, but he was able to correct it, and he's back in the lead. So a good move out of Southern Loop for Josh McFarlane. That Kawasaki is very quick coming out of that left-hand corner at Southern Loop, but Ferguson is right there with him. And what a race we've got in our hands here in the Supersport 600s. Lap 2 of an 8-lap race. Chris Synan still in third, holding off now Campbell, who's coming through quickly.
Well, Wally won't be wanting to let these guys get away and make a break on him. He's trying to pick up on their draft, and to do that he may well have to get around Synan, but it's a long way around the outside over the hill. But it's Ferguson around the outside. It's a long way around there. It can be done, but it's a hell of a long way.
Tighten it up around the apex, trying to get a good drive out of MG as they link up these two left-handers towards the straight, and Ferguson is right there with McFarlane. He'll get a great slipstream as they come across the start-finish line and then back down to turn 1 for the third time. Up the inside, looking for a way past the Kawasaki of McFarlane. He finds it as then Campbell and Synan swap paint as they come across the start-finish line. Handlebar to handlebar into turn 1 the same way. Ferguson goes through to take Josh McFarlane, and Campbell does likewise to Chris Synan.
I think it's going to be a 4-way fight here. They're going to be bunched up. Yeah, Mel Campbell's right on the back of Josh McFarlane now, and this is the way it'll pan out. Be a big bunch up down into the Honda hairpin at the end of the kink here. Josh will try and get back up the inside of Ferguson. He's out wide, and that'll set him up for an inside run, but it'll be a big call.
Here they are under braking. Ferguson this time will hold off McFarlane into the hairpin at Honda corner. Now Campbell in third place and Chris Synan in fourth. So 3 of the men from the front row of the grid out there dueling for the lead. No sign of Craig Connell as yet making his way through the field. There he goes, flashing past the curb cam again.
Big ask to recover from a bad start in only 8 laps. So unfortunately for Craig Connell, he didn't get away like he should have. But anyway, it's back to Adam Ferguson out front with Josh McFarlane on his tail and Mel Campbell bringing up the rear of the front 3.
The last time they went across the start line, McFarlane led by 17 one-thousandths of a second. They're lapping it around the 1:41 mark around this Phillip Island circuit. Campbell in 3rd place, but it's Ferguson out in front of the Kawasaki of Josh McFarlane.
Josh, through this last turn, looks like he's struggling a little bit getting the power down through there. He's trying to pick the bike up, but Ferguson had it all over him in the first couple of laps with that exit onto the front straight. But he's right on his tail. He's pulled out and gone by. Now Wally might pop out of both of their drafts and get them both. But it's Josh back into the lead.
McFarlane leads into turn 1 on lap 4 of this 8-lap race. So coming up towards the halfway mark, Ferguson went straight past McFarlane. He must have missed a gear. Campbell went past as well.
Yeah, he got the double-sider then and swamped back into 3rd place after leading in the first turn.
Well, he either found a false neutral or missed a gear or did something, because they went past him like he was standing still for a second there.
Yeah, it looked like he was pretty much stopped, but he'll get it together.
And he might do it very quickly here. Up the inside of Wally Campbell. He goes through. Josh McFarlane back into 2nd place, and he now has Adam Ferguson firmly in his sights as they head up towards Siberia.
Wally back up the inside of McFarlane into Siberia, so Wally's on the charge. He's trying to track down Adam Ferguson out front, and believe me, he will.
The old stager, old enough to have his son racing in the same race as himself as Ferguson, goes up the long left-hander up the hill to Lukey Heights. Campbell in 2nd place, McFarlane 3rd, and Chris Synan dropping off slightly in 4th place. But Ferguson has the biggest lead we've seen in this race to date, and it's about 3 bike lengths. That's how close it's been. Yeah, we'll see what that turns into at the end of the front straight after they get around the long left and swap drafts. Now Josh should get the big drag down the front straight this time, being in 3rd position, as long as he can get enough power on in that entry to the straight around through there to make use of the draft. Here's Ferguson and Campbell taking on to the back of Ferguson. Across the start-finish line they go. Mal Campbell hits the lead. Pass Adam Ferguson into the lead, a little bit wider going into turn 1. Ferguson tucks back in behind, as does McFarlane. Great move by Mal Campbell on board the CBR 600 Honda. Leads into Southern Loop on lap 5 of this 8-lap race.
It'll be hard for him to beat Mal. He was always a real tough campaigner, but the young guys are going so well that it's good to have a benchmark like Mal Campbell out there.
And you can't rule out Craig Connell. His last lap was the fastest on the circuit. He was a 1.5 seconds slow off the lead of Mal Campbell as they came across the start-finish line. So the Ducati man is definitely on the move and picking them off one by one. He's up to 6 at the moment, and by the time they get to the checkered flag, he might be right there dueling with them. But at the moment, it is still Mal Campbell leading Adam Ferguson, and then Josh McFarlane on board the Kawasaki.
Yeah, Josh looks like he's starting to struggle a little bit with Ferguson and Campbell pouring on the pace.
And Connell is up to 4th place. Connell is 4th as they come up the top of Lukey Heights. Here comes the Ducati boys. Look over your shoulders, because you'll see a yellow flash. It's Campbell, and then Ferguson, McFarlane, and then Craig Connell.
If Craig Connell's made up that much time through 4.5 laps, he's still got 3.5 to run him down. He's right there. He'll be very close to on him. There's Craig Connell on the screen now. He'll be pretty close to the back of Josh McFarlane by the time they get through the first turn.
He's lapping the best part of a second faster than anybody in the last couple of laps. Mal Campbell still leads and will hold the lead down into turn 1 on lap 6. Ferguson right behind him. McFarlane is there in 3rd, but he's about to be joined by Craig Connell. This could be a dash to the line between Mal Campbell. Does he have a big enough lead at this point of the race to hold off the fast-charging Craig Connell? That's the question they're asking around this Phillip Island circuit.
Well, Wally, he's a pretty cagey character. He's got a lot of tricks in his book, don't you worry about that. And he'll probably use quite a few of them before the end of this race. But Ferguson having a look up the outside, but big ask to get up the outside and around the outside through a hairpin of Malcolm Campbell with the amount of experience he's got.
And he is right there with him. The back end shaking around a little bit on the CBR 600 as they head out of Siberia and come up the back straight. Craig Connell is the man on the move. All eyes watching him. He's about to join Josh McFarlane and go straight past him into third place, you'd think.
Yeah, and Paul Free's tagged on to the end of that bunch on the Suzuki, so he's up there having a good go. He's come along with Connell as well for the ride, so Josh McFarlane had better just watch out because he's about to get swamped.
Campbell leads Ferguson through MG corner. McFarlane for the time being, though, on the Donut King Kawasaki, leads Craig Connell around the top of the circuit. Ferguson once again is right there, trying to slipstream as they come back on through turn 12 onto the main straight. McFarlane is still in third place, and Connell around the top of the circuit there couldn't make any ground, but this is where he's very, very good. Plenty of power from the 748 SP Ducati, looking for the draft up the inside of McFarlane. Down for the lead, though, it's Ferguson who makes Walt Campbell sit up very, very quickly there, up behind the screen, and Ferguson goes through to the lead, and look at that gap. He went past him like a slingshot.
Yeah, well, he didn't get the best of that move, but anyway, that's the way it goes. I'm sure Wally will have a few tricks up his sleeve, as I said earlier, and I think Connell didn't get McFarlane, so McFarlane's going extra well. Wally's in his way now that he's dropped back a little bit, and it's given Ferguson a bit of a break out the front, but I'm sure they'll be back on his case any second.
McFarlane up the inside. Connell trying to get around the outside. No way around him there, but he's right with him now, and he's not all that far off the lead here, which is held by Adam Ferguson. Mal Campbell fighting back. It's just a couple of bike lengths now, and what a great four-way battle this has been. The first race of the weekend. It's just a prelude to what we're going to see on Sunday come the 125s, the 250s, and the 500 Australian Grand Prix here at Phillip Island.
And Connell's got McFarlane up out of Siberia there, so Connell's up into third place behind Mel Campbell.
Over the hill they come at Lukey Heights, down towards MG corner. Coming up very, very quickly is the Suzuki of Paul Free. He goes past McFarlane as well. So Josh McFarlane on the Kawasaki pushed back to fifth place now. Yeah,
Josh looks like he's struggling a little bit. He may not have been able to get it set up as well as he wanted prior to the race, but anyway, here the boys doing it out the front.
Somebody not struggling is Mal Campbell as he looks at the inside of Adam Ferguson. They'll be creating a big hole in the air for Craig Connell. Up the inside past Adam Ferguson. He'll try and do the same to Mal Campbell. He does. He hits the lead. The pole sitter, after blowing the start, hits the lead here with 2 laps to run at Phillip Island. A great move, and it shows you just how quickly you can improve on the drafting here at Phillip Island down the main straight.
It makes a huge difference, and that's obviously not to take anything away from Connell and his machine, but they're in the lap riders already, so this is going to put the cat amongst your pigeons with a bunch of lap riders in the way.
Certainly is. On the last lap, Craig Connell leads them down towards Honda corner. Half a lap to run here. That is turn 4. Campbell right on the wheel of Craig Connell. We wondered if he'd catch them in time. Well, he's done that with about a lap to spare as he came storming past them down the straight, in Gardner Straight, mind you. Campbell is right there with Connell. The Ducati hasn't been all that quick around the top of the circuit as we saw last time, and Campbell will be looking for a way past him as they come into MG down the hill from Lukey Heights, perhaps. Adam Ferguson still in third place, holding off Paul Free with McFarlane in fifth behind them, but it's now a battle in 2. Connell on the yellow Ducati, Campbell on the red and white Honda. He has enough lead there. Lap riders, that man got in the way there. Craig Connell had to sit up momentarily. Campbell couldn't capitalise. Well, the rider is still on the racing line here, and Craig Connell had his run stalled there, but Mal Campbell had to go the long way around. That man did a terrible job of getting out of the way. The blue flags were waving. Does Connell have a big enough break to lead them across the line? The checkered flag, he wins it. He blew the start. He gave them a start and a beating at the same time. A great ride by Craig Connell.
He certainly did that from behind. He came back really strong. Brilliant ride from Craig Connell, but the rest of the boys put up a pretty good show too.
Craig Craig Connell, absolutely dynamic ride. He beat Mal Campbell, who finished in second place. Paul Free got through for third. Adam Ferguson was fourth, and Josh McFarlane finished in fifth place. As we look at them coming out of turn 12 here, down the main straight towards the checkered flag. They were balked by a slow lapped rider, but Connell had a big enough gap, got the inside run and gave them the thumbs up across the checkered flag.
Yeah, and Connell could afford to drive it up the inside of the lap rider there, coming out the long lefts with the punch and the torque of the Ducati, whereas Wally had to keep the 600 Honda wound up and just run it right around the outside, which is